And welcome into NFL Daily Live with actually pretty good timing as Davante Adams has requested a trade from the Las Vegas Raiders, or prefers to be traded, however we want to describe it there. And the Raiders apparently open to doing so. We will spend a lot of time on Davante Adams on today's show. I want to make sure everyone has changed identification, though, so we'll start with a non-Adams question for you guys. Let's go over to the Eagles. My boy Chase Sr. is a bit anxious right now. I know many Eagles fans are anxious. What's panic level right now over Jalen Hurts? 6 turnovers in 4 games is not very good. That's a little high. He really struggled. Not all his fault against Tampa. I am not as concerned, but there are things to be concerned about. I'm not saying bench him. I'm not that crazy. I'm not saying play Kenny Pickett or Tanner McKee or whatever. But there's some concerns there with Jalen Hurts. Up and down too much this year. So what is your panic level? Scale it for me from 1 to 10 in the comments section of today's show. What is that panic level with Jalen Hurts? Junior says 8. Christian says 5. I think 5 is probably fair. I don't think it's as bad as it was with Wentz. But if he still struggles against the blitz, if he can't do anything really on offense without, down and stop 2 receivers, I'm not as concerned there. But, that's kind of a red flag. It's a red flag for me. So, panic level over Jalen Hurts. Scale it for me from 1 to 10. I got a 0 in there from Caney and Crossley. We will also spend a lot of today's rumors, and I suspect the mailbag too, on Davante Adams. Will the Raiders trade him? Y for yes, N for no. Certainly seems like a far more likely outcome than what it was 5 days ago, 7 days ago, whatever. It is a dicey situation for Vegas. Seems like Davante Adams isn't that happy. Team might not be that happy. Might be time for a divorce. Will they trade him? Y for yes, N for no. 76% voting yes right now, with some of those coming in earlier before some of the news happened today there. Junior says yes. Tar Heel Cowboy says no. Anel or Angel says yes. Marion Barnett says no. Jonathan's on his way to Dallas. That reminds me, I need to do the Larry Fitzgerald tweet. Don't let me forget as soon as I get off air. Do you want to talk about? There was the old viral meme of Larry Fitzgerald spotted at Logan Airport, and it was just a black guy with dreads. There was nothing. It wasn't Larry Fitzgerald. So every time there's a trade rumor, I'd post that. No matter who it is. I've done Von Miller spotted at DFW airport. Just like Lyle Collins at Kimmel. But I think that one was actually true, though, wasn't it? Was that one true? I don't know. Y for yes, N for no. Brian says yes. Christian says Jets or Steelers. 2 very valid possibilities there. Zachary says yes as well. So get those answers in. Will the Raiders end up trading away Davante Adams? Today's show is made possible by Game Time. They have a new feature. It's called Game Time Picks. It makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. It's curation to filter out the fluff to only show you the incredible deals on great seats so you don't waste time searching through thousands of different tickets. You can use the all-in pricing feature to hit that toggle on or off to show your price up front, your total price up front. So you don't have any surprise fees at checkout. You can get a panoramic view from your seat so you kind of know where you're actually going to sit. And the Game Time Guarantee means they will give you 110% of the cost of your ticket if you find tickets in the same section and row for less. So what are you waiting for? Download the Game Time app today, create your account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create your account, redeem code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS, for $20 off. Download Game Time today because, time is it? It's game time. Link is in the comment section and the description of today's show. GameTime.co, promo code CHATSPORTS. All right, let's get some team predictions in here. Where will Davante Adams finish the 2024 season at? Is it in Las Vegas? Not necessarily out of the conversation yet. Or is it somewhere else altogether? I got a Jets in there. Jets make a lot of sense. Got Aaron Rodgers. They're desperate to win games right now. That fits the older age standpoint. Steelers make sense. Patriots, they don't not make sense, but I wonder if the timeline is right there for them, since it's probably going to be a rental of Davante Adams. We'll talk about the contract stuff later on. I would be pretty shook if it was the Kansas City Chiefs. The Raiders don't want to send him in division. I would be pretty shocked if that one went down. Zachary says the Cardinals would be fun. They would be fun. I think the timeline's not right. I also kind of like the trio. Let Marvin Harrison be your one. Michael Wilson's with an elite number one is a fine number two, and Greg Dortch is actually pretty fun there. Richard says Mitch is in shambles. I think Raiders is live right now, so yeah, they probably are in shambles. Cowboys, I'd be pretty surprised. That's just not they are aggressive for wide receivers. I don't think this team deep down thinks that they should actually be buying a rental player. Bills could also make sense. They need a receiver. I think they're willing to kind of save some money this year, though, but I wouldn't be a huge surprise, right? Saints are a fun dark horse because they have Derek Carr there. Now, the issue with New Orleans is they don't run three receiver sets. They are in constant, 12 personnel, 21 personnel stuff where there's just two receivers out there. They got Olave and Shaheed. So if they want to run 11, yes. I'm not sure if that's what the actual game plan is there. So you can also see the Jets make more sense if they say screw it on Hassan Reddick, and it's basically even money swap salary cap space-wise that they were already planning to pay. It's very interesting there. Saints, Bills, Jags, they need it, but they should not be buying. Again, any NFL team, I want to emphasize this, can make it work. If for Davante Adams, you can restructure one contract and make it work. You can find the money in the banana stand to make it work from a money perspective. Everyone has the money available if they want to. It's a matter of do they want to. That could also be something for the Commanders to consider. Like, does Adams fit their timeline? It's a little bit older. The Rams need receiver help. They probably not going to go down with that mindset there. You also could see a deal for Adams where he does a new contract too as part of this, whether it's just a short-term restructure or a full-on new deal, and that brings down his salary as well. We'll come back to that more in depth in a little bit, but we'll talk draft on today's show too. How many quarterbacks go in round one of the 2025 NFL draft? I got a new mock draft for you guys. I intentionally went quarterback heavy because we haven't had a chance to talk about them very much, so I wanted to. I wanted to discuss more of the quarterback stuff, so I intentionally loaded up on that front. How many QBs go in round one? I think I see 2 or 3. It's a good over-under. Some guys are showcasing some good stuff that has helped their stock. Not everyone has in the process. Even guys that were like, maybe if they have a breakout year, some of those guys have just been outright bad and weren't really in super high conversation there. You also can see some guys going back to school. Happens every now and then as well. So how many quarterbacks go in round one of the NFL draft this year? Let me know in the comments. I see 5, 2 or 3, maybe 3. So Jonathan Adams is not making $25 million, actually. So stay tuned. We will break down what the impact is for Davante Adams and a potential new team in a trade. But first, if you are ready for today's live show to start, then like the video. More likes we get, the more audience we get, the more fun we have, the more shows we get to do for you here on Chat Sports at NFL Daily. The goal is always a 50% like ratio. We were about 25-ish behind that. So like the video for me right now. Coming up on today's live NFL Daily, heavy NFL rumors and news led by Davante Adams trade preference. I think it's still a request, basically. A mailbag, 2 ways to get on the show, hashtag NFL, or skip that line altogether in Super Chat. Get your hashtag NFL questions in now so Producer Stone can find them and then bring them up on screen. And a new 2025 NFL mock draft. All coming up here live on NFL Daily. We've got some big-time news to discuss on Davante Adams and his trade preference/request. We will get to all of that and what some potential destinations are. But will the Raiders trade Davante Adams? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know in the comment section of today's show. Let's talk that Davante Adams trade. The rumors are back, and now it's kind of more on the newsy side, as that smoke has kind of become more of an outright fire at this point. He reportedly wants to be traded. The Raiders are open to doing it. Let's wind back the clock a little bit. First, there was the K. Adams conversation today where he makes comments like, I'll control what I can control. Antonio Pierce is liking Instagram posts about Adams not playing again, which is really friggin' weird. Like, you're a coach. What are you doing? Then there was this report this afternoon from Vincent Bonsignor. More on this to come. A league source with knowledge of the situation confirmed the Raiders are growing open to the idea of trading Davante Adams. The source said the club is going to reach out to teams to gauge interest in the veteran wide receiver. Then, not long before we went live this afternoon, Ian Rappaport, Raiders star receiver Davante Adams, informed the team he preferred to be traded, per him and Mike Garafolo. There is nothing imminent, but a situation to watch for sure. Rapp then followed up with this. The Raiders are trying to win games, and there are plenty of scenarios where Davante Adams stays in Las Vegas. But there are also scenarios where he's headed elsewhere, and he'll have a market. Then Adam Schefter reporting this, per ESPN sources. The Raiders have informed other teams they would, quote-unquote, consider trading wide receiver Davante Adams for a package that would include a second-round pick and additional compensation. Then, of course, there were the comments this morning where K. Adams asks Davante Adams, no relation, hey, what's going on with the Raiders? You're going to be traded? And he just goes, I'm going to control, all I can control is the next thing I'm on to. And that was a, that's interesting type of comment. That certainly raised some red flags, some question marks of like, what's going on there? That's all a very interesting comment that had been made. My big question mark here is, trade competitions at 2. What teams are interested? What the hell happened here? How did this go from Adams making comments of season, I don't want to be traded, to 4 games in, they're 2-2, by the way, he's like, yeah, I'm done. What is going on in Vegas? Why are they spending money on Christian Wilkins and having massive quarterback questions, and now their best player, their best receiver wants to move on? It's very messy, again, in Las Vegas. I'm not a Raiders fan, but if I were, I would be tired of this happening seemingly every year with a different player or coach. It's got to be super frustrating. Now, we'll get to some destinations, some talk about Adams and the contract as well. But where do you think Adams will finish the 2024 season? Raiders? Somewhere else? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Now, the Davante Adams contract is a little bit complicated. You'll see the cap hit get flown out there. It's not what the new team owes him. A new team would trade for him right now and pay him $13.5 million over the rest of the season. Now, that is an adjustable, fungible number. They can extend him, work out a new deal, push that money off in the future, and get that number cut down to $2, $3, $4 million if they wanted to. And it basically drops by roughly, it's a loose and funny number there, by about $1 million between now and the NFL trade deadline each week. Trading for him at the deadline, $8.6 million. And yes, there's money on the books next year, but the $36.25 million he is owed in 2025 and 2026 is non-guaranteed, which means the new team wouldn't have to pay him that. So I think one of two things happen. They view him as a rental and maybe even push that money off in the future to go all in right now, or they say, you know what, Davante Adams, you're only 31 years old. You turn 32 in December. We'll add you now, and we'll work out a deal and bring that cap hit down this year, give you some more guaranteed money, make you happy, and then we'll have you for multiple seasons. He's still on pace, despite missing a game this year, to being a fringe 1,000-yard receiver, and, he didn't really drop off that much when he had Derek Carr. He did drop off last year with the quarterback carousel that was going on in Vegas, and not the greatest quarterback play this year. So what I'm saying is, from a contract perspective, any team that wants to can afford Davante Adams. It is a question mark of, do they want to? With that in mind, the top 5 teams for the Davante Adams trade. The Jets are an obvious fit. These are the trade odds, by the way. -200 for the Jets Aaron Rodgers, desperate team, need a receiver. It makes a lot of sense. The Chiefs need a receiver. I'd be pretty shocked if the Raiders are trading him to Casey. That's a very anti-Raiders move. Ravens and Bills are contenders with wide receiver question marks. They make some sense. If also they're a little bit more tight on cap, they could make it work, but maybe they don't pursue that right there. The Steelers are linked to every wide receiver. Does he fit their timeline? Same is true for a fun dark horse, the Commanders. The Commanders could pursue that if they wanted to. They have the cap space. They need a receiver. They don't have a ton behind Terry McLaurin, but does he fit their timeline? I think you'll see more movement, more updates on that in the coming days and hours here as the NFL moves forward with the Davante Adams trade stuff. Today's show is made possible by Game Time. It is the place for last-minute tickets to your next big event. Game Time Picks. It's a new feature that allows you to just see the best deals. See only the top-end, best savings, best deals out there on the Game Time app. Gets rid of all the fluff, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. It's another way that Game Time is trying to save you money. Just like their all-in pricing shows your total cost up front, so there's no surprise fees at checkout. The Game Time guarantee is this. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So download the Game Time app, create your account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create your account, redeem code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS, for $20 off. Download Game Time today because what time is it? Game Time. Links in the comments and the description of today's show. Week 4 takeaways. Now, this could all go away if the Jets get Davante Adams, but I think they should be a little bit worried. The offensive line has not been great. We saw great Aaron Rodgers in Week 3, and I know the weather was bad. I don't think he played very well in Week 4. And Garrett Wilson got locked up by Patrick Surtain. Allen Lazard and Mike Williams are who they are. They'll make the occasional contested catch, but it's not like they're getting open reliably and making a bunch of big plays for you. It's why there's been so much linking there with Davante Adams. The running game has not been as effective as I thought it was going to be. The defense is still good. Part of this is probably a Nathaniel Hackett issue, by the way. Let's talk Jalen Hurts. I'm actually not panicking on Hurts. Now, if you were expecting the top 5 or fringe top 5 quarterback play he got back in 2022, probably are freaking out right now. But Hurts has been too inconsistent. Some of the issues are still there. Now, it was not all his fault they lost against the Bucs, and I think if we're being honest here, expectations of any quarterback minus their best offensive lineman and their 2 best wide receivers is probably not very good. And it's amplified when your tight end drops the best throw of the game. That was a great throw by Hurts that Goddard has to catch. That was a dime. And he didn't bring it in there. So I'm not panicking yet on Jalen Hurts, but the fumbles, the interceptions, still having issues against the blitz, stuff's got to be worked out. Been too many mistakes for a quarterback who had shown growth every year in his career, college included, until last year. So what is your panic level over Jalen Hurts? Eagles fan and non-Eagles fans can vote for me. Scale it from 1 to 10 in the comments section of today's show. I am very impressed so far by what the Commanders have done this season. I also think that we maybe shouldn't get too far ahead of our skis. I saw ESPN ask, is Jaden Daniels the best quarterback in the NFC? No, he's not. Been 4 games. Been 4 really good games. What happens when he's not playing the Giants, Bengals, and Cardinals? 3 of those defenses are bad, and 2 of them are outright among the worst in football. Now, the Browns probably win that one. Panthers win that one. It gets tougher in November. And historically speaking, Cliff Kingsbury's offenses have started hot and very much cooled down. I like what I've seen from Cliff. I think some needed adjustments have been made to an extent. I love what I've seen so far out of Washington. I'm just not going to crown them quite yet. I will crown the Jags as the worst team in football, though. They're a mess. Last year, this year to start, it wasn't really that much of Trevor Lawrence's fault. Yeah, there were still throws he missed each game. Every quarterback misses throws. It's kind of funny how only that applies to only certain QBs sometimes for whatever narrative reasons. But last week, look, if they got normal Trevor Lawrence play, they win that game. I thought he was actually just outright bad. The head coach is taking shots at his players. He used to be like, 1 game at a time, we'll chip away. Now he's been comments on, you know what, we can't go out there and play for him. It's bad in Jacksonville. They got to fire the GM and fire the head coach and get a little reset in there. And the Ravens, they're back. That was a damn impressive performance on Sunday Night Football. That was awesome. Derrick Henry running all over dudes. The Bills' run defense is a concern that it hadn't been challenged yet this year. They kind of remind me to an extent, they've, I think, got a better quarterback, of some previous years' Dallas Cowboys teams where when they have the lead, it's cooking. And if they get run on, it's not great. But the Ravens, loved what I saw. 2 big-time wins in back-to-back weeks. We'll have more NFL coverage for you guys every single day. Hit that sub button so you don't miss out. YouTube.com/chatsportstv. Let's talk some injury news here around the NFL. We'll go rapid fire. Good news first. Nick Chubb. Practice window will open this week after his IR stint to begin the season. Trending towards a return there. However, nothing trending for Christian McCaffrey. Bilateral, which means both Achilles have tendinitis. That doesn't sound good. One is worse than the other. Again, I question, is he going to play this season? There's really no timetable. Do they get to their bye and reevaluate? I am worried about the McCaffrey situation in San Francisco. Rashee Rice, it's very weird, by the way, that we're well past the 24-hour and kind of almost into the 48-hour window here of, hey, what exactly happened to Rashee Rice? Maybe there was a lot of swelling. I don't know. But team had feared a torn ACL. Some hope that maybe it's not a full tear or it's not as bad as they thought, but no official announcement on the injury other than the fact that he's going to miss time, which is a big loss for KC. Anthony Richardson, semi-good news here. Day today with oblique and abdominal strain instead of the hip injury. That's kind of part of it, I guess. He could play this upcoming week. I don't think the Colts will have Jonathan Taylor, though. He suffered a mild high ankle sprain in week 4, which does not bode well for the Colts, and the run defense is also pretty bad, by the way. Speaking of high ankle sprains, Micah Parsons, that's going to likely keep him out to the team's Week 7 bye, making an already bad defense in trouble with Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence, by the way, both out. Shaq Thompson, unfortunately, tore his Achilles against the Bengals. He says he's not going to retire, but it's going to be a long recovery for the talented linebacker as a Panthers defense gets even worse. Will Levis suffered a shoulder injury. Titans are on bye. Mason Rudolph drove the bus home for a victory. Tennessee will go back to Levis despite having at least one hilarious meme-worthy still image captured and one bad interception each game or turnover each game, but shouldn't be a long-term absence for Levis. If you guys have not already, make sure you have subscribed to us here on NFL Daily. 2 other minor things I want to make note of, by the way. Von Miller suspended 4 games for violating the NFL's personal conduct policy from a domestic violence accusation last year. And then Michael Hall Jr., the Browns defensive tackle, getting 5 games. He's already had time served for 4 of them, so he'll miss the 1 game this upcoming week, also for some domestic violence accusations as well. It is mailbag time here on NFL Daily. If you have questions, there are 2 ways to get in on the show. Hashtag NFL or Super Chat. Super Chat's a guarantee. Hashtag NFL gets you in the queue for producer Chris to find your question and then bring it up on air. Updating that real quick. Got your questions? Get them in. Again, hashtag NFL or Super Chat. Skip that line altogether if you do the Super Chat side. I did see some hashtag NFLs come in. But if they're not in there, it just makes life very challenging on Producer Stone to find your question, bring it up on screen, etc. So it's just easier that way. So Junior, I appreciate that, putting in your hashtag NFL there. I am sure there will be plenty of questions on Davante Adams. That is just fine. I will, Stone, do your best to make it not all Davante Adams. Not all Davante Adams, but some. Absolutely, but just not every single question in case he gets traded before the mailbag goes out, because then we're in trouble. So get those questions in via hashtag NFL or Super Chat. If you guys like our NFL mailbags and you like our live shows, then like, this video. It's free. It's easy. It should be something you do on every single show. Simply like the video if you want to have more content from us here at Chat Sports. Some comments and questions. First up from Junior Estrada. Should the Patriots trade for Deontay Johnson? They can try, and I wouldn't be mad at it. I also wonder if, for New England in particular, this is not a one-year rebuild. Like, Johnson is, I think he's a free agent this year, I think. I need to double-check that. But it makes some sense to maybe keep your powder dry. You know, you're going to want those draft picks. You're going to want that salary cap space to spend on players this upcoming offseason, this upcoming free agency, this upcoming NFL draft, as you build around Drake May long-term. If you think Johnson's going to resign, okay, it's a different conversation. But I'm not just trading him for a short-term rental because Patriots aren't good enough to trade for him as a short-term rental. DC times Viper. Do the Jags blow it all up mid-season? I don't see Doug Peterson lasting past week 8. Yeah, I've seen some reports that Jags was like, oh, who's going to be our head coach? I think that is such a bad excuse. If you don't know who your head coach is, fine. Who cares? You're firing your head coach because you're winless. Who cares about saving the season? I do think if you fire Doug Peterson, when you fire Doug Peterson, you fire Trent Baalke too. I don't need to have this team doing we fired the GM, kept the head coach. Fired the head coach, kept the GM. I think that leads to dysfunction. I think that leads to a lack of cohesion and vision from an overall organization standpoint. I don't like it when teams do that. So if you fire one, fire them both. Ecuador, man, how about an Olave for Adams trade straight up? I think the Raiders do that in a heartbeat, and I don't think the Saints should do it. I think Chris Olave is a really good young receiver. I'm not saying that he is better than Davante Adams right now, but I also don't think the Saints are going to Super Bowl this year, even with Davante Adams. So I would not be trading away the younger prospect for a soon-to-be 32-year-old player. Talent-wise, it's not that far off, I actually don't think, with the way that Olave's played and shown flashes and Adams getting up there in age. But I think from a long-term viewpoint, it's a bad idea for the Saints and a great idea for the Raiders. From Come On, don't need to Come On Man. That was a fun segment. Am I crazy thinking the Rams should trade Matthew Stafford? I actually don't think you're crazy. I'm not saying I'd do it or that I think it's a good idea for the Rams to do it, but I do get where you're going and what your mindset is there. The Rams have so many injuries, it might be a sunk season already. And if they want to kind of do a quick little rebuild here, trading Stafford, if you can find probably should honestly be a first-round pick, even if it's just a one-year rental. He's still really good. He's still dealing for LA. If you can find good trade value, makes some sense because there's a scenario in which you move on from after the season, but you're also giving up a top 10 QB, is maybe even fringe top 5 with the way he's played. It'd probably be 5, but still. So what would you do? You were the Rams. Would you start the rebuild now and trade Matthew Stafford with all those injuries? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know in the comment section of today's with the pin comment, especially if the ad comes here on YouTube. Miguel, is Davante Adams to the Bills a possibility? Possible? Yes. Likely? Maybe not. I do think the Bills going into the season, whether I agreed or did not, I think the Bills had a mindset of, you know what, we're going to allow ourselves to kind of have a little bit of a reset year. You moved on from some older players. You moved on from the ability to pay keep Stephon Diggs. You added young players. You shed some dead weight, as they would try to call it. So I would be a little bit surprised if they went down that path. But it is possible. If they think, you know what, we're better than we thought we were going to be, let's go be aggressive. I wouldn't be mad at it. Because then you got Keon Coleman and Davante Adams, like Khalil Shakir. It makes Mac Hollins' role reduced. I think it's a good fit. It makes sense. But I do wonder if the Bills are in that aggressive type of mode right now, even though maybe they should be. You guys can find an NFL rookie jersey, or really any jersey, except for Marvin Harrison, over at chatsports.com/NFL jersey. First-round picks, established players from Bo Nix to Caleb Williams to even offensive linemen. They're all available. So go if you're looking for something to put on your Christmas wish list as we get closer to, well, it's always Christmas season since that stuff's already available and it's not even Halloween yet. I digress. Get yours today or send it to a buddy or your friend or your mom to get it for you. Chatsports.com/NFL jersey. Link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. From Lore, what can the Niners trade for a defensive player? In particular, draft picks. I don't know what other major assets they have, unless a team wants Ronnie Bell or Chris Conley, which I would be a little bit surprised by. They have some relatively high investment in offensive line, and you can maybe shop like a Spencer Burford, or I don't know if anyone wants Ben Barch, but I think draft picks is the most logical one there. DC times Viper. Are the Bears starting to show life on offense, and will they finally be a complete team? I am worried about Shane Waldron. I have seen issues of not scheming up his best playmakers, like not being very creative with the routes for the number one guy like DJ Moore. The offensive line issues in Seattle have followed him to Chicago, and maybe it's a schematic thing for some reason or whatever. I'm a little bit worried about Shane Waldron as the OC. And if the offense holds back again, as good as the defense might be, the job of the head coach is to get a good offensive mind in there. So I'm not sure what's going on with Waldron and what that means for Eberflus, but got to have stability for Caleb Williams, and you got to make the decision on that stability after this season. From Stone's number one fan, is that your mom, Stone? Would the Browns trade Amari Cooper after redoing his contract? So I don't know if you mean it this way, but I'm going to clarify something because I saw a lot of bad information being reported out there. The Amari Cooper restructure was not done this week. That was done back in July. That was done to save the Browns' salary cap space, push it off in the future as they do with almost every contract. The Browns take an extreme view, which I actually kind of like. There's a good rationale behind it. Hey, if this guy's going to be on your team this year, take the free loan. You're going to pay him $20 million no matter what. Why not have it count less this year? And if you're always doing that, you're always creating more salary cap space and always spending more cash than everybody else. Now, what happens is you have to pay him that for not being on your team. That kind of sucks if you move on from him in that season. Also makes him more appealing via trade. For the Browns' perspective, I have questions there because they're trying to win now. They've invested a lot, and trading Amari Cooper is kind of punting on the season, especially given the wide receiver room overall in Cleveland. So will the Browns trade Amari Cooper? Get those predictions in for me in the comments section of today's show. T for trade, K for keep. From Wayne Wilson Jr., Seattle trades Lockett for Adams. DK, Adams, and JSN would be scary. Then trade Howell to the Panthers for Young. Interesting idea on the Sam Howell, Bryce Young trade. It actually feels a little bit more lateral. I think to an extent, that's all a little bit lateral. I think Lockett is not as good as Adams. I also think you kind of get into like that specific scenario. You kind of run into it's better, but does it all work together? Like if you know your passing offense works, I'm not necessarily looking to like adjust that and potentially impact the chemistry and make things worse overall, even if it is overall rating-wise, Madden style, better. Hal for Young is fine if that's a path you want to pursue. Neither guy is a threat to Geno, though. Geno is a damn good quarterback. He's just got that failed other places stigma attached to him. If you want more free NFL YouTube videos, you come to the right spot. Hit that sub button right now, youtube.com/chatsportstv. Mr. Awesome Guy 222. Who needs to leave the Eagles? Nick, Jalen, or both? I would get rid of Sirianni first, then Jalen Hurts. Now, I do wonder how much of that was Shane Steichen being a really good play caller, because all I know is Steichen leaves and some of the Eagles' offense isn't as good, even if the pieces didn't change that drastically. I think it is reasonably frustrated by Jalen Hurts. I'm not giving up on him yet. I'm not even really that close to it. Now, the Eagles are much more aggressive than I am. And I give them credit for that. I think they would definitely move on from Sirianni before they would move on from Jalen Hurts, though, first. From Mikey D3, does Zach Wilson have any trade value for a team like Miami? This Chase Daniels burner account? I actually don't think so. What has Zach Wilson done? He looked fine in the preseason. Okay. So, doesn't mean anything. It's the preseason. Like you're kind of banking on the outliers, the Geno Smiths, the Sam Darnolds of this time. It will be different. The problem is most times it's not different, and the teams that are looking for different normally have other issues beyond just the quarterback and more organizational philosophy stuff there. Put your trade ideas for me in the comment section of today's show. Or any ideas you got, player, team, stuff you think is fun or crazy or trying to trigger me, let me know in the comments of today's video. Skyler, should Carolina trade for Henry To'oTo'o? He's still playing for the Texans, and he's actually, I think, getting a pretty decent role. So I don't know why Houston would do that necessarily. To'oTo'o's been a nice player for Houston. I don't think he's like a superstar linebacker, but he had, 61 in his first season. Houston's a contender. They're not looking to trade assets at the moment. Christian, what's your record prediction for the Steelers? By the way, Steelers fan here also. Sunday night to your Cowgirls playing my sisters. Good luck. Good luck to you too, Christian. I hope they lose, but that's just me being a homer. But I think it'll actually be a really good game. And the Steelers are right to be favored, by the way. Pittsburgh is Pittsburgh. They do it every year with Mike Tomlin. They're going to win 9 games or 10 games. Even if the offense maybe isn't elite or the defense is a bad game, they find ways to win 9 to 10 football games every year. It is a testament to Mike Tomlin. So, 9-8, 10-7. Take your pick. It's going to be probably one of those two. Maybe a little bit better this year. But the schedule does get a little bit tougher, too, down the stretch. All right, it's what? What's your favorite college football team? It got me, too, and then we talked about it pre-show. That's on me. What is your favorite college football team? Since we're about to discuss my 2025 NFL mock draft. What's your favorite college football team? LSU Tigers. Been a weird year for LSU football, man. You kind of fart around versus UCLA. You probably should have lost against South Carolina, too. Stupid block in the back penalty kind of saved LSU there. Texas is in there. FSU. Oh, I'm sorry, man. DJU's got a finger injury, huh? Maybe Brock will be better. Another FSU, sadly. Michigan, not as good. Hey, you had last year. That's what matters. USC, Penn State, Temple. Is this Chase Senior's burner account? Chase was big mad at Temple. And I can't say I disagree with him there. Although they lost to Coastal Carolina. Their one win is over Utah State. They're probably going to fire that coach again. Yeah, hasn't been great. Hasn't been great. Coastal loss and the getting swept by the Armed Forces minus Air Force is probably not great either. Iowa, they're not fun to watch. I'm sorry. They're better on offense this year, but Kirk wouldn't fire his kid. Alabama, fun times for you. USC, they look better. They look much better. We'll see if that can. And the tough loss to Michigan, obviously, but I think they're back on the right track. The defense looks better. Go figure. You hire a good DC and better things happen at the collegiate level. Clemson, I still think Clemson might win the ACC this year. I think they still might beat Miami. I wouldn't be stunned if that one happened. Texas is in there. Ohio State. Texas is in there. As Omar's burner is back. He's 2 for 2 on his profile picks requesting trades. Don't put any Cowboys on there, Omar. Davante is such a Steeler. I also tweeted out, I don't know if you saw it, Steelers fans with the I'm ready to get hurt again meme. You almost have to go get Davante, right? Because you've been so close on other ones that have not come to fruition. The Jets, I think, also make sense. We'll break down tomorrow morning again some more trade destinations for Davante Adams, but Steelers make sense. I also wonder, I've seen the Raiders do it before of, we will not trade him in the AFC. That was with Khalil Mack, and they took less back, which was dumb. But I am very curious to see where and if he ends up getting traded, because I think there should be a pretty good market for him. Pittsburgh certainly is one of those teams. So favorite college football team, let me know in the comment section of today's video. I don't think it's the Chiefs, by the way, for Adams. Like, that is such an anti-Raiders move. I'd be a little bit surprised. But let me know your favorite college team in the comments of today's show. We are about to break down my latest 2025 NFL mock draft. Before we get there, the order for this mock draft was based on the Chat Sports consensus NFL power ranking. So if you don't like where your team is drafting, it's not my fault. I was outvoted. I will also link the power rankings video so you can go complain over there. But make sure you guys are subscribed for those power rankings each week so you can air your grievances before the mock draft drops. Let's get into it. Number 1, Travis Hunter. Jacksonville is kind of a weird team where they've got a lot of these early teams, the needs and top players don't necessarily align. I'm just going to take the best one for Jacksonville. I think he can play NFL number 1 corner, NFL number 1 wide receiver. He is a stud. The things he does, like at a certain point, I have to stop going like, oh, he's going to get tired. Why? He does it every game. He's going to wilt in the Florida Heat. He's from Florida. He just built different. Hunter is a superstar, and I would let him play both sides. He'd be my number 3 receiver and my number 3 corner. I think I can make that work in the NFL. Both are actually kind of needs for Jacksonville anyway, at least to an extent, especially corner. Now, we'll talk a lot about quarterbacks on today's show. And there are several other QBs we'll get to. Please don't freak out about where they're ranked necessarily. It is, after all, October. I think Shedeur Sanders fits what Brian Callahan wants to do on offense, and I continue to be impressed with him. The biggest thing for me for Shedeur Sanders is not, handling pressure or hitting more over the middle of the throws. He's shown some progress in both there. He's very accurate, though. He's very quick release, too. It's the leadership stuff. It is the intangibles. I don't know if teams are going to like him calling out his old teammates. That might not go over well. But you get him outside of the Coach Prime bubble, and might even be better for him. Number 3 is Will Johnson, and you could easily go quarterback here, too, for Carolina. I think they should just not and build the roster up better and then figure it out. Johnson is a great cornerback prospect. Carolina has a need, especially beyond J.C. Horn. I think that is an obvious area of concern for Carolina, and you can make an argument that Johnson is the best prospect in this class. There's like 7 different guys that you can make that argument for. I like him a lot. Patriots at 4. Let's take an offense tackle to protect Drake May. They got to keep adding offensive picks. So offensive line or even going down the route of receiver makes sense. I got Banks out of Texas at number 4. Quarterback could also be in play here at number 5 for the Miami Dolphins. But to replace Christian Wilkins, let's take Mason Graham out of Michigan. That is a star player. Much like Will Johnson, Travis Hunter, he's got a claim of, actually, I'm the best player in this year's class. I love Mason Graham. I think the Miami, Stephen Ross, Michigan connection adds some minor bonuses. Not that you necessarily need it, but I think it makes sense for the Dolphins. Number 6 is Cam Ward to the New York Football Giants. And I'm just going to say this right now. I am intentionally putting more quarterbacks on this mock draft than I maybe would in other years. Reason being, I actually want to discuss these quarterbacks. And because there is not an obvious number 1 pick lock right now. And it will, as you saw this week, it's going to fluctuate from game to game. He's the number 1 pick. That's the number 1 pick. Last week it was Cam Ward. This week it's Jalen Milroe. I like a lot of what Cam Ward does. I think there's also still some high variance in his play where I don't think he processes as fast as I like him to. That's very true for most quarterbacks. There's some big-time plays. There's out-of-structure stuff. There's also just missing some reads and being a little bit volatile. But we're talking about the Giants with league neighbors. I think he's actually a pretty decent fit if it's Brian Dable or not. So how many quarterbacks go in round 1 of the 2025 NFL draft? Is it 3? Is it 2? Is it 4? It is the pinned comment on today's show. So if the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. Let's get the Browns a wide receiver with Amari Cooper uncertainty long-term. Teteroyo McMillan. He's kind of a weird prospect. He's big, like height, but he plays like a finesse slot receiver. I mean that in a good way, by the way. He's dangerous after the catch. He is a different body type than what the Browns have. He's a damn good receiver prospect. Number 8 is Jalen Milroe. And with all of these quarterback prospects, there's real question marks around them. It's Cam Ward. Like, he's a gunslinger. Can he be consistent for an entire season? hasn't done it yet. He's had some issues against Virginia Tech. Jalen Milroe holds the ball too long. Some struggles over the middle. He was much better in that area, though, against Georgia. He's got the arm strength. He's got the mobility. There's a lot of intriguing things about Jalen Milroe, and I do think this version of the offense for Alabama is kind of hiding some of the negatives and maximizing the strengths and the benefits. He'd be a fun fit in Vegas, regardless of what their receiving core looks like. Now, this is where I begin to stretch and put quarterbacks a bit higher than what they should go. I'll put Quinn Ewers at number 9 here, but he is still a total question mark because he had a great game early in the year against Michigan. I thought it one of his best games ever. I still want to see more consistency deep downfield and on the outside. I think he could be maximized by Sean McVay. It's a good spot to go to learn behind Matthew Stafford maybe for a year. Both those guys have special arm talent, even if the results for Ewers aren't necessarily there yet. I also wonder how he's going to come back from the injury. And those injuries are a big question mark. Because if you can't stay healthy, I can't play you. So for Ewers, I want to see him play well down the stretch. Because if he doesn't, it's going to be Arch Manning next year in Texas. If he struggles, he might have to go to the portal. And that gets a little bit dicey. Number 10, the edge class has not wowed me yet, but Abdul Carter out of Penn State coming off a good game this past week, by the way. He's a kind of a 3-4 outside linebacker or linebacker edge hybrid. He fits what the Eagles want to, or what the Cardinals want to do with former Eagles head coach on the Gannon on defense. I like that fit quite a bit. Today's show is made possible by Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks. It makes getting tickets to your favorite teams play live even easier. Don't have to fluff. To only show you the incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time straying through so many tickets. It's curation designed to save you even more money on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. The all-in pricing feature shows your total cost up front with no surprise fees at checkout. You can get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. And the Game Time guarantee is this. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create your account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create your account and redeem code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS, for $20 off. Download Game Time today because what time is it? It's game time. I'm a big fan of Luther Burden out of Missouri. That is a game-breaking threat at wide receiver. Not the biggest guy necessarily. I think also covers up some not great quarterback play for the Tigers as well. Getting Bo Nix more playmakers. That makes sense. Malachi Starks, the Colts. The Georgia safety, very talented player. I think is kind of, it's a safety. It's not as highly valued. Let's find a good mock draft spot. Indy needs an impact secondary player. Got him one there at number 12. Some players slide because the quarterbacks went early, by the way. Will Campbell, number 13, out of LSU to the Bears. Protect Caleb Williams. Probably change your scheme, too, a little bit from a blocking perspective. But Will Campbell is a very good offensive rusher. He was a toss-up between going number 4 and ended up falling down here. Didn't have a great feel for the Bengals at 14, but Sam Hubbard has not been very good. Miles Murphy's been banged up. Trey Hendrickson is getting up there in age and also is looking for a new contract again this offseason. Adding a premium pass rusher probably makes some sense, and Pierce as a situational guy who's not a great run stopper, I think actually would bring a different element than what the Bengals have right now. A little quiet to start the year, but he is a very gifted prospect. Fun idea, maybe, depending on how you feel about him. The Jets, Carson Beck. He kind of salvaged some stuff in that second half by performance. He was bad in the first half. He was shook. And they showcased some of the things that made you worried about him, where he's not the same physically gifted quarterback, and if he's a little bit late on some of his reads, I think you're looking at more of a Jared Goff ceiling. So I was never sold on Carson Beck at quarterback 1. He was almost a placeholder to see how some other guys fared. I think he's definitely slid down to a certain extent. But none of these quarterbacks for me are really like obvious top 10 guys, top 5 guys. But there's also half a season plus to go. There's plenty of time for guys to answer some questions and look better and continue their upward stocks or not. So right now, who is your quarterback one? And I don't mean it's not a bad thing to get a Jared Goff clone and Carson back. That actually would be a good outcome. But if that's the ceiling, knowing what the floor is, that gets a little bit more dicey. So who is your quarterback one right now? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Chargers get a Michigan man. That is Kenneth Grant, the freaky athlete out of Michigan. Fills a need, good value, checks off boxes there. Cowboys get another defensive lineman. And Deion Walker is a very unique prospect. He's a little bit light in the lower body. He's still 6'6", 350, and drops into coverage and makes plays. Very unique prospect, and I think actually does have some question marks around him as a result. But I think adding a defensive tackle who might be more of just a giant 3 technique than he is a true nose guard actually does fit for Dallas. Benjamin Morrison. This was a great value pick for Green Bay. He's a top 15 guy for me, but he just fell because other guys went earlier. Fills a need. Great player. He's awesome. Saints, you know what? If you lose Chase Young to free agency with the way Peyton Turner, Isaiah Foskey have played, and Cam Jordan's getting older, edge is a sneaky need. And Nick Scorton has been a little bit quieter than I'd hoped for at Texas A&M this year. Not bad, don't get me wrong there. But none of these edges have taken over that number one edge spot. Somebody will down the stretch. But I do like Scorton. Eagles fans might not love it because it's another Georgia edge. But Michael Williams is a good player. Now, he's been a bit banged up. It's limited him as a result. I think second half breakout is coming for the talented pass rusher. And Eagles love going premium positions in round one. Falcons, Jack Sawyer. He's been pretty good for Ohio State. Now, the level of competition is a valid red flag. We'll know more about him as the season goes on. But I think to replace to replace Matthew Judon, a pass rusher is an area of concern. I wanted a defensive player, but I was getting a little bit heavy. I didn't want to go 4 straight edges. Kind of didn't want it was going to be a weird mock otherwise. Isaiah Bond is a speedy wide receiver to pair with Terry McLaurin because the Jahan Dotson pick has not worked out. And I'm not sold on Diami Brown. They're playing Noah Brown big snaps, and that's not, I think, a great idea long term. Speedy vertical threat for Bond to catch go balls from Jaden Daniels. I think that's a good idea. Number 23, the Steelers, Ashton Jeanty. And I think he's going to go round one. Najee Harris is a free agent. Jalen Warren is probably more of a rotational back. If you haven't watched Jeanty play, I don't normally advise just go watch the highlights. Just go watch the highlights. That is his film. That's all he does. He's been incredible. And I think he's going to go in the first round pretty clearly. So will a running back go in round one this year? Y for yes, N for no. I think he goes in round one, maybe multiple go in round one. Let me know in the comments of today's show. Jalen Walker out of Georgia, who's kind of this part linebacker, part edge rusher. I think I almost put him here just because of the defensive coordinator. I think Mike McDaniel could do a lot of fun stuff with him. He drops into coverage, he blitzes, he does run defense, he does a little bit of everything. So I think Mike McDaniel, edge has been pretty good, linebacker not so much. I think he could have a lot of fun deploying him in Seattle. The Bucs at 25 get a cornerback. It's Denzel Burke to fill some question marks on that side of the ball. The Niners finally invest in the offensive line. They take Emory Jones out of LSU. Could go earlier. Might be a guard too, but you have options there. I still think getting some more offense lineup for the Ravens is an area of concern. Tyler Booker is one of the most powerful people alive, and I mean people. The strength that man possesses is unbelievable, and the Ravens love their SEC players anyway. Houston at 28, Tyler Williams out of Ohio State. I would love to get a truly dynamic, impactful 3 technique who's also got some pretty good size on him too. With what the Texans do on defense, I think that dynamic presence in the middle is all they're lacking, really. I want to see that fit in Houston. A name you might not have seen much of, Antoine Powell-Ryland. Now, he's got 7 sacks this year out of Virginia Tech. Now, Were 4 of them against Old Dominion? Yes, but he also played really well against Miami. I'm kind of shooting my shot a little bit early here on Antoine Powell-Ryland. But I think another edge for the Lions to pair with Aiden Hutchinson, because Houston's kind of a rotational piece. Davenport's on a 1-year deal. I think that could certainly be a fit for them. The Bills at 30. I just love Alec Eomanor. He's so good. Like he's buried on a bad Stanford team that no one's really watching, or at least a not great Stanford team that no one's watching. He makes plays, man. He and Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakir, that's fun. That's a fun group. Minnesota at 31, Takario Davis. Cornerback is still an area of concern. Gilmore and Murphy are on 1-year deals. I think adding more talent is just a logical fit for Brian Flores' defense. And I wanted to have some fun. Colston Loveland at 32, who might not still be tight end 1. He's kind of, the quarterback play has been bad and kind of hurting him a little bit there up in Michigan. But I think for a team that loves to utilize tight ends, I know that they spent a draft pick this past year, a 4th-round pick on Jared Wiley. Kelsey can't play forever. Colston fits, I think, what the Chiefs would like to do on that side of the ball. Now, I left players out. I am not going to go 100%. There's no way. Who did I leave out of my 2025 NFL mock draft? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. A couple names I might expect to see on here. Harold Perkins, he and Siobhan Ravel have been in previous mock drafts. They have injuries now. They tore stuff. It's a huge red flag. It puts them in the unknown category for me for the time being. I like Emeka Ibuka. I think he's more of a number 2 than anything else. Ariante Ursary, the tackle from Minnesota. Tackles tend to rise. Can easily go round 1. And I like Jonah Savanaia out of Arizona. Might be a guard, but he's a good player. So will the Raiders end up trading away Davante Adams? Let me know in the comments section of today's show what you think the Raiders end up doing. 83% voting in favor of yes. So Y for yes, N for no. Will the Raiders end up trading him? Certainly feels like that's the path we're going on here, folks. Now, you haven't already, please make sure you guys are subscribed for more NFL news, rumors, trades, everything else. Hit that sub button. YouTube.com/chatsportstv.